China wants to cement its military status in the present day. US intelligence agencies believe it is constructing what will be the world's largest military command center.
Just beyond the mountains near Beijing, something massive is taking shape. It's not a city, not a factory, and not a power plant. From above, it looks like one of the largest construction efforts in modern Chinese history. But behind the cranes and steel is something far more strategic and far more secretive. Analysts are watching closely. Satellites are tracking every new development, because what's rising here may not just change how wars are fought, but where they're controlled from. One detail buried beneath the surface has sparked growing concern. Not because of what it is, but because of what it's designed to endure. This isn't just about size, it's about purpose. And the closer you look, the more questions begin to surface. So, what exactly is being built, and why now? China's new military command center. China's new military command center, located southwest of Beijing, is a project of unprecedented scale and ambition.
China is building a sprawling military complex in Beijing, according to reporting by the Financial Times.
Spanning 1,500 acres, the facility is over 10 times larger than the Pentagon, which itself covers 148 acres, while the Pentagon houses 26,000 employees across 6.5 million square feet.
The Pentagon is a symbol of American strength and security. It is the home of the US Department.
The Beijing base will boast 15 million square feet of above-ground structures, with an additional 5 square kilometers of underground facilities. These subterranean sections are designed to store 6 months' worth of supplies for up to 50,000 personnel, making it one of the most self-sustaining military complexes ever built. Satellite imagery from February 2025 revealed the intensity of construction underway. Over 100 cranes operating simultaneously, working around the clock, with the site illuminated 24/7, so bright it's visible from space.
30 kilometers southwest of Beijing, construction began in mid.
The pace rivals major national projects like the Three Gorges Dam, with excavation reaching 30 meters deep in just 6 weeks. Unlike China's struggling real estate sector, this base receives top priority access to concrete, steel, and labor, reflecting its strategic importance at the highest levels of government.
Concrete bunkers to protect China's military leadership during a conventional.
The entire architecture of this base emanates its grandness very strikingly. Satellite images can show 3 functional distinct areas: a central command hub with 12 radiating tunnels, which probably are linked to Beijing's subway system for speedy evacuation, a field with 6 missile-shaped structures, likely housing EMP-shielded communication arrays.
Well, I think it's part and parcel of a broader push by Beijing to prepare itself.
And an 800-meter-wide circular testing ground that has been suspected to be the proving area for drone swarms. On the western edge, even evidence of a 2-kilometer runway can be found, although it remains questionable on what purpose because of the existing Beijing airport infrastructures. It is no longer about being the biggest. This mega military complex establishes the new paradigm for how China envisions waging modern war. Survivability, deep underground, advanced communications, and AI-enabled effects at this command center are not what comprise troop bases. This is a shockingly large and amazingly fast-paced construction that has left analysts astounded and pointed to the fact that China is preparing its military for intensive future conflict-driven technology where it aspires to rival or outdo US military infrastructure. But size alone isn't what's turning heads. It's what lies beneath the surface that truly matters. Strategic design for nuclear survivability. One of the most critical aspects of China's new military command center is its design for nuclear survivability. The facility is buried 30 meters underground, shielded by steel-reinforced concrete and alternating polymer gel layers, a construction method intended to dissipate blast energy much like a car bumper absorbs collision force.
Perception, and frankly, this has been backed up by multiple internal speeches from Xi Jinping.
This multi-layered defense system increases the chances of withstanding a 500 kiloton nuclear strike. aligning with US estimates for deep earth bunker survivability. The site's location behind the Taihang Mountains further enhances protection, as the granite terrain is capable of absorbing shockwaves, making underground bunkers up to 40% more resilient against advanced bunker-busting weapons like the US GBU-57. The base also includes electromagnetic pulse, EMP resistance, a critical feature in modern warfare. Its power lines are routed through liquid nitrogen-cooled pipes, a technique adapted from China's quantum research labs, ensuring uninterrupted communications and command functions in the event of an EMP attack. Such protection is vital, as EMPs could otherwise disable electronics and communication systems during a conflict. Additionally, the facility's thermal and radiation filtering ventilation systems are designed to support life underground for extended periods, up to 90 days in a contaminated environment. Finally, at the base, it is not only equipped for short-term survival, but also to keep itself alive in the long term. Hydroponic farms, for example, can support 10,000 people indefinitely, and they have huge stockpiles to keep functioning for months without supply. It is this dramatic degree of autonomy that makes the base not so much an easily secured command post, but rather an apocalypse dacha for the political and military elite of China, guaranteeing leadership continuity in case of even the most extreme scenarios. Its location, only 30 kilometers from Tiananmen Square, ensures quick evacuation, 18 minutes by helicopter, from central government hangars to safety at the base, in case of an emergency. There is nothing new from the strategic thinking behind this construction. During the 1969 Sino-Soviet border clashes, internal security bunkers outside Beijing were overseen by Mao Zedong. As a precaution, he contemplated against a Soviet nuclear attack. However, this version is far superior. Modern technology at work under a condition that is in a heightened tension of a growing doctrine of deterrence and survivability. Because the Chinese nuclear arsenal is expected to grow more than triple by 2035, this building becomes a hardened nerve center for the country to coordinate all its strategic defense and even offensive operations.
When their fortunes fade and you say that China's star is already falling.
In a world affected by nuclear arms. Advanced technology integration. China's new military command center is not just massive, it's technologically cutting edge, integrating some of the most advanced systems ever seen in a military facility. At the heart of the base is a network of AI-driven systems designed to enhance situational awareness.
When finished, the report says it would be at least 10 times larger than the Pentagon.
Command efficiency and rapid response capabilities. In July of last year, China launched a test operation involving 1,200 AI-piloted drones, which simulated a strike and successfully mapped Taiwan's defenses. This kind of autonomous warfare capability highlights China's shift toward algorithmic, unmanned conflict, where machines handle surveillance and attack coordination with minimal human input. The facility's communication systems are specifically built to resist electromagnetic pulse, EMP attacks, ensuring continuity of command even in the midst of electronic warfare. Power lines are routed through liquid nitrogen-cooled pipes, a method borrowed from China's quantum laboratory infrastructure. This not only protects critical systems from EMPs, but also prevents overheating under high-load conditions, essential in a crisis. The site also includes missile-shaped structures believed to house EMP-shielded communications arrays, vital for maintaining secure lines with satellite systems, drone fleets, and military branches. With this base, one can begin to appreciate the multi-domain capabilities that range from space operations to cyber warfare. The PLA has historically suffered from a lack of integration across the services, with different branches competing for resources and autonomy. The structure of this facility seeks to bring together command structures for decision-making in cyber operations, satellite tasks, and drone command. This offers rapid response, seamless campaign execution, and real-time coordination in the land, sea, air, space, and cyber domains. What is even more telling is what the base does not possess: There are no huge barracks, no tank depots.
1,500-acre site just southwest of Beijing.
This is not a base meant to throw out waves of soldiers. This is a command brain. Generals will commandeer a conflict from deep below ground, while drones, missiles, and autonomous systems do the work above. This is a complete negation of a normal military base, in the sense that wars are expected to be run from fortified control centers, where a majority of the actions will be automated or remotely controlled. This is China's big gamble that the next high-intensity warfare will be fought with data, AI, and precision weapons, not just soldiers on the ground. A new kind of warfare command. China's massive new military base marks a fundamental shift in military doctrine, one that focuses not on traditional troop deployments, but on centralized command, control, and coordination. Unlike conventional bases with barracks, tanks, or training fields, this facility has no visible signs of large-scale troop housing. That's not an oversight, it's by design. The base is being built as a strategic command brain, where generals and top decision-makers can run entire military operations from deep underground, using real-time data from satellites, drones, and cyber units to manage conflicts remotely. This shift represents a departure from legacy warfare, where victory relied on mobilizing troops and occupying terrain. Instead, China is preparing for a digitally integrated battlefield, where the bulk of warfare is executed by autonomous systems, long-range missiles, and cyber operations. The physical presence of soldiers is minimized, and instead, AI-powered drones, EMP-hardened communication systems, and precision strike capabilities take center stage. It's a model of warfare that prioritizes speed, survivability, and centralized control, giving commanders the ability to launch and monitor strikes from within a fortress-like environment. It is the underground architecture that makes this command structure even more potent for its ability to carry out operations during nuclear or electromagnetic attacks. The facility was designed to be nuclear bomb-proof, remain in contact during a blackout, and ultimately protect leadership decision-making from extreme pressure. The nuts and bolts, from radiation filtering ventilation to hydroponic farms and fiber optic links, suggest no mere battlefield hub, but a war headquarters intended for protracted, high-intensity conflict. This guilelessness in its approach demonstrates China's concept of next-generation warfare, which is less about the number of troops and more about who controls the information and the decision-making. In this concept, the battlefield is worldwide, and the brain that choreographs it must be resilient, flexible, and integrated across all domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyber. Whether it is a stroke of genius or a gross overestimation, what is clear is that China is pouring billions into the construction of a nerve center for warfare that would facilitate its domination of conflicts from a location its adversaries might not even reach or destroy. China's military overhaul and centralized control. China's new military base is more than just a fortified structure. It's the centerpiece of a sweeping military overhaul ordered by President Xi Jinping. For decades, the People's Liberation Army, PLA,
regular air training, air operations being conducted by the PLA Air Force,
operated under a fragmented model where different branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, often competed for funding, autonomy, and strategic direction. This siloed structure led to inefficiencies and delayed responses in joint operations. Xi's response has been to centralize military power under a unified command system, and this base is the physical embodiment of that shift. A key objective of the overhaul is to achieve seamless integration across all PLA theater commands by 2027, the year that marks the PLA's 100th anniversary. According to a leaked 2023 PLA memo, by that date, every regional command must be able to operate in real-time coordination with Beijing's headquarters. This new facility consolidates command over cyber, space, and special operations forces, ensuring that every major decision, from missile launches to cyber attacks, is approved from a single location. This centralized model aims to eliminate rogue decision-making and ensure total alignment with the leadership's strategic vision. The greatest merit of this command configuration is exercising effective precision and headroom for crises, notably in a clash over Taiwan. It reduces risks for miscommunication and unauthorized action on site, high in operations secured from one secured command area by directing multi-domain operations. Most significant, however, is in an age so critical as this, that as tensions increase all too readily across the Taiwan Strait, China would like to ensure that its forces are not only powerful, but unified and tightly controlled. It aims at a newly designed command center to establish a nerve nexus within which real-time coordination would empower China with potentially conclusive strategic operation advantages. In broad terms, this entire restructuring marks the real transformation of China's military doctrine. In the past, folks would view the PLA as a huge but rusty army, while what is now being converted to form is a leaner, smarter, and much more technologically aligned military machine. This size of centralization also serves a political purpose. It brings direct control to the Chinese Communist Party and Xi himself, and ensures the alignment of military activities with national objectives. In other words, the command center does not talk about war. It is an effort to exercise world hegemony vis-à-vis political control, technological superiority, and strategic cohesion. Every command center needs security, but this one was positioned with something else in mind: geopolitical and tactical significance. The location of China's new military command center is a masterclass in strategic planning. Situated just 30 kilometers southwest of Tiananmen Square, the facility lies close enough to maintain tight political oversight from Beijing, yet far enough to survive a tactical nuclear strike aimed at the city's core. This careful balance between proximity and protection ensures that leadership can relocate quickly, in just 18 minutes by helicopter, to the hardened base in the event of a major crisis. This makes the command center a fail-safe refuge for China's political and military elite during wartime or national emergencies. Adding to its strategic value is the terrain itself. The facility is tucked behind the Taihang Mountains, a natural barrier that offers more than just concealment. These granite mountains are ideal for shockwave absorption, increasing the survivability of underground bunkers by up to 40% when facing bunker-busting weapons like the US GBU-57. Moreover, the mountainous geography helps shield seismic activity, making it harder for foreign intelligence to detect construction and underground operations via traditional monitoring methods. In short, the mountains serve as both a physical and operational shield. Defense is not what positioning is all about. It is connectivity and command. Satellite readings would suggest 12 radiating tunnels from a central command hub, likely tying into Beijing's subway network as rapid evac routes or alternative transportation corridors if infrastructure fails. Moreover, straight-up fiber-optic cables buried very deeply within the base connect it directly to the PLA's Northern Theater Command in Jinan for real-time synchronization of military responses all over northeastern regions of China. Indeed, this reverses infrastructure in the base as it proves its function to become a centralized nerve center in the broader military network of China. A strategic remoteness makes it difficult to target. It is adequately close for top-down oversight from Beijing, but just out of range for the likely blast radius of a nuclear attack on the capital. Hidden construction and its vast underground systems have kept this project officially unacknowledged, even as satellite evidence is overwhelming and US intelligence has confirmed. Thus, besides being a base, this position is a linchpin in China's future military strategy. Stealth, survivability, and command reach are rare. Global expansion. While China's new military command center in Beijing grabs headlines,
China now, the country is building a military command center near Beijing.
It's only part of a broader and rapidly expanding global military footprint. Since 2017, China has been building overseas bases with strategic intent, beginning with its first outpost in Djibouti, located at a key maritime choke point between the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. Officially labeled a logistical hub for anti-piracy missions, the base tells a different story from space. Satellite imagery reveals underground bunkers spanning 23,000 square meters, possibly used to store missiles or drones. In 2023, the pier was upgraded to accommodate aircraft carriers, signaling long-term ambitions far beyond basic naval resupply. In Central Asia, China has quietly established another military base in Tajikistan's Pamir Mountains, at an elevation of 13,000 feet, just 12 kilometers from Afghanistan's Wakhan corridor. The base includes helipads, surveillance towers, and barracks for 300 troops. Although Tajikistan's government frames the site as a counter-terrorism facility, leaked documents reveal that China negotiated full ownership in exchange for forgiving $1.2 billion in debt. Its true value lies in securing China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) routes and protecting investments in neighboring Xinjiang from potential instability in Afghanistan. If built, this may be quite alarming to Washington, because the proposed location at the Gulf of Guinea, through which 30% of Europe's oil imports pass, would allow for observation or intervention against operations in the Atlantic by Beijing. Equatorial Guinea denies the base negotiations. However, US intelligence agencies confirm that discussions have been taking place. Its significance lies in providing support to hypersonic missiles and aircraft carriers in direct contention with NATO's southern flank. Each base provides building blocks to be placed on a broader strategic puzzle. Most importantly, whereas the US base is over about 750 military installations around the world, China appears to be focusing on a few highly strategic sites, each serving a specific geopolitical function. Djibouti permits observation of US activity in East Africa and control over maritime trade. Tajikistan secures energy and mineral corridors inland, and Bata provides China with its first major access point on the Atlantic. A common thread running through these bases is the heavy indebtedness of each hosting state to China through loans related to the Belt and Road Initiative. This debt distress, in turn, potentially allows Beijing to enhance its access to further strategic locations on the global map, thereby slowly building a surveillance and influence grid around 3 continents. The thinking behind China's military funding abroad also represents a deeper transformation in its approach to influence, now leaning less on the use of the stick and more on generosity-based influence via infrastructure and finance. Unlike base deals of the Cold War era, driven by ideological blocks, Chinese bases come with a transactional and strategic warrant, usually couched within the larger Belt and Road Initiative. According to historian Lyle J. Goldstein, China's bases don't just project military strength, they're part of a civil-military fusion strategy that ties economic, political, and defense goals together. For instance, at Gwadar Port in Pakistan, from where prospective commercial traffic is currently being built, Chinese corporations by now have developed deep-water infrastructure that can just as quickly and easily be converted to military use. These ports function as civilian ports that gradually expand their capability with military applications, building runways, hardened bunkers, and surveillance systems. This intersection of commerce and defense permits flexible applicability. China can increase its military pull while consciously avoiding arousing the same wrath as a standard base approach. China's geostrategic military web. China is constructing more than just military bases. It's building a global geostrategic web designed to collect intelligence, monitor adversaries, and project power far beyond its borders. At the heart of this network is the Beijing Military City, which acts as the central command hub for processing and coordinating data from China's overseas outposts. From Djibouti's radar stations on the Red Sea to surveillance towers in Tajikistan and potentially spy ships in the Atlantic, China is weaving a multi-continent system of military and strategic nodes. These installations are not isolated, they're digitally connected, feeding real-time intelligence back to Beijing's command center. This network is intended to give China constant situational awareness across key global regions. In the Indian Ocean, the Djibouti base allows the People's Liberation Army, PLA, to monitor US operations at Camp Lemonnier and track maritime movement through one of the world's busiest oil routes. In Central Asia, the Tajikistan base sits on a corridor that connects China to Afghanistan, providing both surveillance and rapid strike capability in a volatile region. These locations were chosen for their strategic proximity to Western interests and conflict zones, positioning China to observe, intercept, or intervene as needed. The Chinese doctrine gives each outpost its specific role and function. Djibouti serves maritime control, Tajikistan secures western frontiers and economic corridors, and the prospective base in Equatorial Guinea would empower Beijing in contesting US-NATO presence in the Atlantic Ocean. While China's military footprint abroad is still dwarfed by that of the United States, the pinpoint placement of its bases indicates a more targeted strategy that factors in elements of precision, concealment, and maximum geopolitical leverage. In contrast to the Cold War model of mass deployment, China is developing a lean and digitally integrated network with a focus on quality over quantity. All this feeds into a further encompassing ambition to become a peer military power to the USA. This burgeoning web of bases gives China the infrastructure necessary for global coordination of multi-theater operations, drone warfare, and cyber warfare in defense of its increasing economic interests. Through fiber optic links and thermal monitoring systems, AI-powered analysis at the Beijing Command Center allows quick and cohesive responses to global developments. This forms a geostrategic net, providing not only for far-reaching Chinese endeavors, but also for strategic redundancy and resiliency, thus placing an undue burden on any single adversary aspiring to disrupt China's rising military influence. This expansion strategy also reflects a paradigmatic shift in China's approach to security and influence, an ideology traced into its long past of strategic thinking. In preference of infrastructure and surveillance combined with a bit of soft coercion, China rejected direct confrontation. This sums up Sun Tzu's Art of War maxim, winning without fighting, and controlling the battlefield before the fighting starts. The increase of military aid to other states, bound up with the creation of infrastructure projects through Belt and Road loans, becomes a method of mixing defense with diplomacy, making it all the more difficult for host countries to disentangle security concerns from economic dependence, creating an extra layer of complexity to this ever-growing international chess game. Global responses and rising tensions. The scale and secrecy of China's new military command center, combined with its overseas expansion, has triggered serious concern within the global defense community, especially in Washington. In March 2025, the Pentagon released a 200-page report concluding that China's nuclear and conventional forces are expanding faster than any US war game had predicted. The facility's hardened underground bunkers, capable of surviving a 500-kiloton nuclear blast, have led analysts like retired Admiral Philip Davidson to warn that China is gaining escalation dominance, the ability to strike first and survive retaliation. This kind of survivability changes how military planners view deterrence and crisis response. However, not everyone agrees that China's buildup is inherently aggressive. Experts like MIT's M. Taylor Fravel argue that China's expanding infrastructure, including the Beijing base, is primarily defensive, aimed at countering the overwhelming superiority of America's 11 aircraft carriers and 5,000 nuclear warheads. In this view, China is not necessarily preparing for war, but rather seeking to ensure that it can survive. Still, even a defensive posture, if misunderstood or poorly timed, can increase the risk of miscalculation, especially in a region as tense as the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan is the tinderbox amid rising tensions that could flare into open conflict, unfortunately. China purportedly set 2027 as its own deadline for achieving full military preparedness toward the seizure of Taiwan, igniting a regional arms race. To bolster its own defense, Taiwan has set aside funds for investment in defense improvement through the Underground Silicon Shield, which constitutes a network of fortifying microchip factories and plans to field within 1,000 anti-ship missiles by 2026. With the threat, Japan then doubled its defense budget to $55 billion in 2024 and deployed missiles to the Okinawa Islands, just 110 kilometers from Taiwan. On the other hand, the Philippines granted the US access to 9 military bases near the South China Sea, increasing US reach in the region. Around the world, military postures are also changing. Following deadly clashes with Chinese forces in 2020, India speeded up troop and road deployment near the Tibetan border. In Europe, NATO dubbed China a systemic challenge at this year's 2025 summit. While not transferring troops to the Pacific, the demand came in the last few months because of the war in Ukraine. "We can't fight two Cold Wars at once," said French President Emmanuel Macron. These reactions reflect the growing global unease, not only toward China's capabilities, but toward the new kind of warfare and power projection it represents, led by hardened bunkers and artificial intelligence systems, and long-range precision, rather than traditional armies. Another complexity adds to the new landscape, particularly with the changing definition of military posture into technology alliances and economic dependencies. In 2024, South Korea and the US launched Project Sentinel, which was a collaborative effort to build AI-driven surveillance systems across the Western Pacific, which many interpreted as a countermeasure to China's fast-emerging command infrastructure. Meanwhile, under the AUKUS Pact, Australia has accelerated its pace toward a nuclear-powered submarine deployment, signaling an important shift from coastal defence to long-range deterrent strike. As former Australian Defence Minister Linda Reynolds noted, the battlefield of the future is not just geographic, it's digital, autonomous, and preemptive. This trend reflects a wider trend. Countries are no longer reacting solely with conventional build-up, but are implementing strategies based on technology, aiming to counter China not just by force, but also by intelligence, speed, and integration. Still, all of this leads to a far more pressing question, one that could reshape the future of war itself: the future of military power. China's massive investment in its new military command center, combined with its overseas base network, raises a fundamental question. Is this build-up meant to deter conflict or dominate it? At the heart of the facility's design is survivability, deep underground bunkers, EMP-shielded systems, and AI-driven warfare capabilities. These aren't merely defensive features, they're tools for ensuring command continuity in a first strike or retaliatory scenario. The Pentagon sees this as part of a strategy to achieve escalation dominance, giving China the ability to absorb a blow and still respond decisively. In a nuclear or high-tech conflict, that kind of resilience could change the balance of global power. Supporters of the deterrence theory argue that China is responding to existing threats, not seeking to provoke them. The US maintains over 750 military bases worldwide, along with a nuclear arsenal roughly 10 times larger than China's. From this perspective, China's accelerated modernization is about closing that gap, not seeking superiority. However, the sheer scale and secrecy of China's actions, building a command center 10 times the size of the Pentagon and creating a surveillance-linked base network spanning 3 continents, suggest a more assertive strategy, one focused not just on survival, but on controlling the tempo and terms of future conflicts. The matter has become extremely sensitive, where Taiwan has sat as the core part of military strategy and global economics, as it now produces advanced microchips, 92% total of the world's supply. Thus, any blockade would cost automakers close to $80 billion in just a month, while any act of invasion ripples down to catastrophic effect. In response, Taiwan is said to be hardening its defenses and getting missile deterrents up and running. But even local leaders say that nothing such as technology will be able to resist a general invasion committed by China. Therefore, regional powers like Japan and the Philippines are strengthening their military ties with the US, thereby deepening the Asia-Pacific arms race. Whether or not the Asian giant's continual expansion and posturing will eventually bring peace through strength or heighten the likelihood of conflict is yet to be unveiled. The Beijing Military City, which marries next-gen technologies with central command authority and nuclear resiliency, initiates a very different evolution in military power, from which traditional armies are likely to be less relevant to information dominance and survivability. China is betting on the fact that this is the future of war. Whether it serves as a stabilizing deterrent or a step toward confrontation depends on the decisions made not only in Beijing, but in Washington, Taipei, Tokyo, and beyond. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to leave a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into global power shifts. And don't go anywhere. Click the next video on your screen to explore how these developments could shape the next global conflict. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.